saw Ryosuke Kosuge was actually using a Thunderbolt on his Tapu Lele, so he'd be able to get some additional damage off onto the Celesteela. So it'll be interesting to see if other players, as we move into day 2, have decided to, or we'll see if we can see any more of the Tapu Lele, or if we're just going to see additional Tapu Koko still.
And Tapu Bulu.
Yeah, I love Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu is so good. But again, guys, you can see on your screen, we've got Till Burma on the left-hand side, Szymon Wojdat. Both players are getting into the game now. We should be going to team preview any minute. So once again, let's just go through the teams. So on the left-hand side of the screen for Till, we will be seeing Gudra, Arcanine, Celesteela, Marowak, Gastrodon, and Porygon 2. Szymon will be having Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Garchomp, Araquanid, Celesteela, and Alolan Raichu. So, yeah, we can see that some of these Pokemon have been making an appearance throughout the day. Gastrodon and Porygon 2 are extremely popular picks, so is Celesteela. And it looks like Till is ready to play the long game.
Yes, indeed. That looks like a Trick Room team to me. Yep. That looks suspiciously like a Trick Room team to me. I mean, if you see Marowak in a team, you tend to assume. But Szymon's team is actually generally quite speedy. It does have the Araquanid in there, which is shockingly slow for a scuttly little spider. But the whole team the team as a whole will not really enjoy that Trick Room, especially if Tapu Koko gets its Electric Terrain up and Raichu has its Surge Surfer, which in Trick Room will just make it slower. And
we saw in the match between Ryosuke Kosuge and Juan that having Alolan Marowak as an option in your team when facing off against the Alolan Classic lead of Alolan Raichu and Tapu Koko is really important. You can have that Pokemon switch in the back and possibly draw away 2 attacks that could be launched into one of your partner Pokemon. Yeah, I think if Marowak is one of those Pokemon that you have to prepare for, because if you don't, it is absolutely going to destroy you. So it's another of those Pokemon that when you see it on the opposing team, it's a bit like Celesteela really, you have to be able to prepare for it and plan for it if in case they bring it. Which I think we're probably going to see it because, as I say, I think Trick Room looks like a good choice here on Till's part. Okay guys, we are going to jump in. We are in round 8 of the Pokemon 2016 European International Championship. We are playing Till Burma against Szymon Wojdat, and we are going to see the leads for Szymon, which is Tapu Lele and Alolan Raichu, and it's going to be Gudra and Porygon 2 coming out for Till Burma. It is a mix-up on the lead we were just talking about, which would have been Tapu Koko and Raichu, perhaps foreseeing the fact that he didn't actually want his Raichu to be especially fast. And Lele's additional coverage may be beneficial to him, especially because it is that little bit slow, considerably slower than Tapu Koko. So, yeah, I think, as you mentioned, Cade, the fact that Till's team does seem quite heavy set, quite slow, Raichu isn't particularly needing to have that Surge Surfer ability to be able to outspeed and do big damage. When paired with Tapu Lele, obviously there is no fake out option, so Porygon 2 would be free here to be able to get up a Trick Room, but he might want to double target into that slot to try and do as much damage as possible, which we can probably see here. Yeah, so we've got Tapu Lele going for the Psychic on Porygon 2, and we immediately see a Z-move coming out here. Which Pokemon is this going to be coming into? We have Alolan Raichu. So that is the Psychic Z-move right there. It is going to be that Shattered Psyche attack, and we've seen this a lot from Alolan Raichu throughout the day. A lot of trainers are using the Shattered Psyche attack, and there we see the double target onto Porygon 2. Is targeting into Porygon 2. He does not want to take the risk with this Porygon 2 being on the field, and... Oh! There is the imaginary Focus Sash and a Sludge Bomb coming out from Gudra onto Tapu Lele, and there goes the Trick Room. There goes the Trick Room, and that 1 HP survival was so important there. Wow, what an incredible... Firstly, really great play from Szymon, understanding that he needs to get rid of that Porygon 2 as quickly as possible. And Porygon 2 is a monster. Absolute monster. Can survive the boosted Psychic, the boosted Shattered Psyche, surviving 1 HP, setting up the Trick Room, and now Till is in a really good position. We've seen that Sludge Bomb is a 2-hit KO on Tapu Lele, so Szymon's going to have to get rid of that. If he's got Tapu Koko in the back, it can't switch in, so he's got to figure out what he can do to switch in. He could probably bring in Celesteela here, or Araquanid. And we see our first Araquanid of the stream. Porygon 2 using Recover, trying to get some of that HP back. And wants to stay in the game a little bit longer. Yeah, and that's the power of Porygon 2. You can just use it to set up the field when you need to, and then bring it back. And there's the bulk of Araquanid, but a poisoning effect. And we see lots of poisoning across the stream today, and it's really important to be able to wear down your opponent's big, bulky Pokemon. Psychic, again, boosted by Psychic Terrain, is going to do some big damage to Porygon, but Porygon's enjoying the position it's in now. It doesn't really want to take another hit, but equally, it can just recover. Porygon 2 is one of those things that it's similar to Celesteela. It can sit there and heal, and you can damage it, and it can heal, and you just have to do something to get rid of it. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Szymon tries to outposition Till here, because obviously with Trick Room still lasting for another few turns, he's got to try and figure out a way to break through these really bulky Pokemon, and Araquanid doesn't seem to have the right attacks to be able to do that, especially when you've got Gastrodon on the side. But we've got to see Leech Life coming out here, going into the Porygon, and that will be able to, it's actually received a buff this generation, so
huge buff.
Exactly, it now does 80 base power, and obviously still gets the healing factor back. We're going to see the Thunderbolt coming out here, and we see how versatile Goodra is. We're going to activate the Citrus Berry onto Araquanid. But yeah, a lot of different powerful attacks that Goodra can use, and we're going to see the Psychic once again go launch into the Goodra, see how much this does. That's a fair amount of damage there, but Goodra is very especially bulky and will take a few more hits from that. And Till is in a really nice position here. Araquanid can't use its Liquidation. Goodra can really just launch 2-hit knockout moves.
Absolutely, and Till has also managed to preserve his Porygon too, so that he can set Trick Room up later on again if need be. We'll have to see if we see Araquanid use it, demonstrating that incredible Water-type power, but it can't do so with Gastrodon on the field.
It's a very nice position for Till here. He's really thought about how to protect his Goodra well. Goodra is again very specially bulky, and none of the moves that Raichu or Araquanid know at the moment seem to be able to... Wow!
Stockpile Gastrodon!
So that's not a move that you see very often in VGC, and again it shows that how people are thinking about using bulkier Pokemon and ensuring that their Pokemon survive for the longest amount of time. Again, Leech Life coming out from Araquanid, healing right back up, and we'll see if the Poison combined with a Thunderbolt will be able to take it off the field.
Definitely, and I think the Stockpile is one of these interesting things, because we're very early meta at this point. It does look like the Poison probably is going to finish Araquanid off here. We're so early meta, it's very interesting to see people trying all sorts of different things and seeing what works.
Yep.
We'll have to see which of them last out in the long run, and Araquanid does faint that Poison damage. I get a little bit tense because there's a slight delay when you're playing the game with where the HP bar drops and drops and drops and drops and drops, and it hovers on 1 HP just for a moment, just to tease you.
No, it's just to tease us, because it's like, oh, it's gonna knock out. It's not gonna knock. Oh, it does knock out.
Oh,
and
it
then,
does.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, they like to just tease us, make our heart stop a little bit. But it's also interesting to see how Till is paring down against certain Pokemon. He has left Raichu alone. Raichu is not a threat to him. He has looked at Szymon's team and been like, okay, I can just leave Raichu, always take out its partner. Goodra does a lot of damage to Garchomp here, so if Goodra has access to any powerful Dragon-type moves like Dragon Meteor or Dragon Pulse, then Garchomp is under a lot of pressure, especially under Trick Room. But we also have to consider that there are Z moves still on Till's side of the field that we haven't seen.
That's
so
true.
we could see a Z Crystal attack coming out from Goodra. Garchomp is not particularly safe here, so we are going to see the Protect.
Yeah, Garchomp does not want to be taking any of these unsafe Trick Room turns. And we've seen the double Protect from Raichu. Szymon here trying to stall out that Trick Room. But we do see the Z Crystal move coming out here. Which one's it going to be? Gastrodon!
Hello. So Gastrodon is going to be unleashing its Z power and going to be using Z Stockpile.
Z Stockpile.
What is the additional effect of Z Stockpile? So Stockpile 2, obviously increasing its defense and special defense, but I don't actually know the additional effect of Z Stockpile. If anyone knows while watching the stream, please tweet it at us using the hashtag #PlayPokemon, because it is really important information for us to be able to know. So obviously Till has thought about this matchup and thought about what he wants his Gastrodon to be able to do, and Gastrodon sitting at +2 defenses is really, really bulky right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing with the Z status moves is they all do different things, and you don't always know exactly what they've been doing. Some of them, for instance, create a spotlight effect, a follow me effect. Some of them reset all status moves on the field, or all status boosts and nerfs on the field. So yeah, if you know what, if you know or can get in to beat the commentator if you like with what Z Stockpile did, do tweet at us. But here we have Raichu using Psychic again. Is it going to be... No, if it had targeted the Porygon there at that point, it could have taken it out, but we see Gastrodon taking another Psychic. And
we're going to see the Dragon Claw coming out from Garchomp here, going into that Goodra slot and actually picking up the KO on Porygon 2 there, so there will not be another set of Trick Room turns for Till's side of the field. The Scald coming out onto that Garchomp, will it pick up the burn? No burn here, but Gastrodon is sitting in a position where it is very, very physically defensive. Raichu doesn't really seem to be able to touch it too well, and it also has access to the move Recover. I'm not sure if Till will be able to actually has it as part of his set, but it could be a situation where we see Szymon waste a lot of turns attacking into Gastrodon for it to all be recovered away.
Yeah, and this is one of the things similar to Porygon 2. Gastrodon has that ability to just recover, recover, recover. You have to be able to deal hefty enough damage to it for it to be able to not just shake it off straight away. And you have to be able to focus on it because it's still sitting there, and it's quite happy about still sitting there.
Exactly, and we've seen from Marcus when he's been on the stream that his Gastrodon has known Toxic as well. So having these additional boosts, having the ability to recover, and also wear opposing Pokemon down using Toxic is a really key strategy that we've seen lots of trainers thinking about.
And we have confirmation. Twitter have come to our rescue, Jay. They have confirmed that Z Stockpile restores the user's HP by 100%.
That is wonderful.
That is
okay,
good.
Thank you, Twitter. You guys
Thank you,
rock.
Twitter.
So again, please use the hashtag #PlayPokemon. We are reading your tweets. We see the Dragon Claw coming out from Garchomp there. Schooled once again from Gastrodon. It's going to hit into that Garchomp. It's going to take it just below half HP. And yeah, so till again, Gastrodon is now below half HP. He probably should be thinking about how he's going to recover that damage. Marowak does not really like facing off against Garchomp. Garchomp known for carrying Z Crystals, apart from we've seen that Szymon's Raichu is carrying a Z Crystal for him, so he wouldn't be able to relaunch an attack, but an Earthquake here would still do massive damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Marowak does not want to be taking an Earthquake from the Garchomp here. We've got Raichu using Protect, and we do see the Garchomp using Earthquake, Raichu keeping its little self safe. And this is, Gastrodon should be okay, but this is going to hurt Marowak.
Yeah, so Marowak down to about a third of its HP. Shadow Bone going to go into the Garchomp. This should pick up the knockout here. So Garchomp will go down this turn. Are we going to see the recover coming out from Gastrodon? If that's... No, there we go.
We do.
Yeah, so recover, then wiping away a lot of the damage that we've seen from Szymon's side of the field. Gastrodon sitting pretty once again. And we now have the opportunity that Raichu is faster than both of Till's side of the field. And alongside Tapu Lele here, we can see some big psychic damage onto the Marowak. And then we've also got to worry about how much damage Gastrodon will be taking from boosted Psychics and Psychic Terrain.
It certainly doesn't want to take any of those. We did see, as we know, it is safe from the Z Crystal. That is one of Raichu's biggest threats, is when you're going to see that Z Crystal Shattered Psyche, which we know Gastrodon is safe from now. But we've got two very high... Oh! That's a very fast Tapu Lele we just saw there.
I think that might be a Scarf
That
Tapu
might
Lele.
be a Scarf Tapu Lele.
And this is a bad position for Till now, because we've got Marowak going to leave the field. He's got Goodra in the back. And so if Goodra cannot take a Moonblast from Tapu Lele on holding a Choice Scarf, then he's going to have to hope that Gastrodon can take out both of these opposing Pokemon.
Well, I think I missed that, Dave. Did Lele, did it just use Psychic on Marowak?
You use Psychic on Gastrodon.
He's Psychic on Gastrodon,
Yeah,
so Lele can't actually switch to Moonblast now.
Oh, of course it can, yeah. So we've got actually have Goodra here. It's going to be taking 2 attacks directly from Raichu and Tapu Lele. And that means Gastrodon is free to either Toxic around or try and get a burn onto one of these Pokemon as well. It might be better just to launch a Toxic at this point. So we see the Psychic coming out from Tapu Lele onto Goodra, which takes just below half HP. Another Psychic coming out onto the Goodra slot as well. There we go. So Goodra survives, 29 HP, and we see the special defense drop, but it's such low range, it doesn't really matter at this point. Sludge Bomb coming out, knocking out Tapu Lele. So it is now Raichu against Goodra and Gastrodon, and Till's in a good position now because Raichu just can't touch Gastrodon. Yeah, so Raichu will be able to pick up a knockout against Gastrodon here, and Till's Gastrodon, sorry, against Goodra. Yeah, they both begin with G. So Raichu will be able to pick up a knockout against Goodra, and then Gastrodon will be able to either just continue to chip away with Ice Beam or Scald, or just set up a Toxic if it has it, and be able to win out the match like that while recovering HP.
Yeah, I still think it was the right call from Szymon to double target the Goodra. He was in a position, these two bulky Pokemon on the field, you have to be double targeting at that point just to try and whittle down the number of opponents that you have that are going to be firing counter attacks back at you.
It was also a difficult position for him as well. With a Choice Scarf on his Tapu Lele, he didn't really have the option to lock into Moonblast, because there might have been a situation where Alola Marowak can be quite bulky. It might have been able to survive both the attacks, and then he'd be in an even worse position than before. So forced to use the Psychic there, but obviously that means that he wouldn't be able to pick up the knockout onto Goodra, and we're going to see the Scald come out here from the Gastrodon onto the Raichu. Is it going to pick up the knockout? It does,
yes,
and that will be game 1. So Till Bohmer of Germany taking game 1 here, round 8 of the European International Championships in London.
Indeed, indeed. So if Till wins the next game, that means that he is through to day 2.
Yep.
So the next game, there's a lot riding on this next game.
That is true. And so we've got to see how Szymon is going to be able to deal with this dedicated Trick Room mode, because when we see Porygon 2, when we see Gastrodon, a lot of really heavy, bulky Pokemon, and he's got to find a way to get around the stockpile on Gastrodon, also get around the Trick Room, the heavy Trick Room mode with really good offense from Goodra. Goodra is doing a lot of work for Till's side of the field, and it hits so many Pokemon just for neutral damage or a 2-hit KO, which is really great.
Having that Sludge Bomb to help deal with Tapu Lele, that is huge.
Yeah, of course it is.
Goodra is just a threat to pretty much everything on the team.
I mean, let's face it, all those Tapu Pokemon are weak to Sludge Bomb, they are weak to Poison type attacks, and once you set up Trick Room, even if it's a Dragon type and it can't use its Dragon type attacks, it's got such good range and versatility that it can keep going whatever. But let's go through the teams once again. So you can see Till's team on your left-hand side: Goodra, Arcanine, Celesteela, Alolan Marowak, Gastrodon, and Porygon 2. And Szymon's side of the field: Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Garchomp, Araquanid, Celesteela, and Alolan Marowak. Yet Szymon really has to think about what he wants to do to deal with this opposing team. Arcanine and Marowak really mean that he can't bring Celesteela.
Which is a shame, really, because Celesteela in that particular matchup could possibly have helped, but it's only knowing with the hindsight that he didn't bring the Arcanine.
Yeah, that's true, and it's also a situation where Alolan Marowak is always going to be a pick for Till, because he's got the Alolan Classic combination of Tapu Koko and Alolan Raichu, and Marowak pairs up against it so well because obviously it just redirects all those attacks. It has Shadow Bone to be able to do massive damage to Raichu, Bohmer as well to be able to hit Tapu Koko and Raichu at the same time. Once he gets Trick Room up, it's very difficult. So we just need to see if Szymon will maybe lead the same way and try and just pick up that knockout on Porygon 2 in exactly the same manner. Maybe he thinks it's a damage roll or something like that.
It could have been with such a clutch survive there.
Yeah, 1 HP. It's really heartbreaking to see. But guys, we are going to be able to kick it into Game 2 very, very shortly. Again, Till Bohmer on the left-hand side of the field, Szymon Wojdat on the right-hand side of the field. Till is 1-0 in this set, so Szymon has to really work uphill to be able to take it through and still stay in this competition.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see I've forgotten my words. We see Szymon leading with Tapu Lele and Alolan Raichu going for the set, and we just see leads, the same leads.
Yeah, so if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Yep.
I think is a pretty good phrase about now. So are we going to see exactly the same turns? And I think this could be a possibility. Maybe Szymon really wants to pair down against that Porygon 2 again, and Goodra is in a fine position here. It can really drop damage on Tapu Lele with Sludge Bomb again 2-hit KO. Raichu it can hit with Thunderbolt, which will do significant damage as well. There's just lots of different options that Goodra has. Really high special defense. I mean, in previous formats in 2014, we saw Goodra was quite popular. It was running Assault Vest before, which boosted its special attack even more. We haven't seen the full set on Goodra this time. Maybe it has Protect, or maybe there's a different item choice. We didn't see any Citrus Berry or any healing that side from Till in the first game. So it'll be interesting to see if what item the Goodra is running, but we're actually going to see a switch out from Tapu Lele.
We're going straight into Araquanid, maybe thinking that Till's going to go straight for the Trick Room from Porygon 2 again, and hoping to benefit from that straight away. But here we have the Shattered Psyche coming straight off from Alolan Raichu. He really wants to hit a heavy move early game here, potentially again worrying that the Trick Room, once the Trick Room goes up, Raichu might not be around much longer.
That's a thing we've seen a lot in the stream as well. Obviously, Z-moves are extremely powerful once you use a really high base power attack, and you can see how much damage it does to Goodra there, just under half HP. Sludge Bomb coming out onto Araquanid, and we've seen a lot of people use them on the first turn. And it's a new mechanic, and people obviously want to test them out. And when you've got the possibility of a big nuke like that, you want to use it as much as possible, and we see how much damage that does. Porygon 2 has now set up the Trick Room. Araquanid is a slow Pokemon, it does enjoy being in Trick Room, but with Goodra on the field being able to put out such good versatile special attacking stuff, with the poison as well, Araquanid probably won't survive this turn.
And it's a shame for Araquanid because there's always the risk that Till is just about to switch in Gastrodon. Araquanid would really like to probably to fire off a nice hefty water move, but instead it's going to go for Leech Life, and it's going to hit into the Goodra slot.
So we did see that actually in the first game, Araquanid did outspeed Goodra under Trick Room as well, so we're going to get a recovery, so it will survive the turn. We're going to see Shadow Ball coming out from Porygon 2 onto the Raichu, which is super effective due to Raichu being a Psychic type now from Alola. We've got the Draco Meteor coming out as well. It's going to target into that Araquanid, and maybe I spoke too soon about it surviving the turn. Let's have to look and see. So, oh yeah, that does. Very high special defense on Araquanid, and the Citrus Berry as well. It's going to hit up here, so we're going to go push it over just under half HP. The Poison will activate as well. Psychic is going to come out from Alolan Raichu onto that Goodra, and that is a knockout.
It is. The Goodra probably wasn't much use at that point anyway to Till, because it did have that double special attack drop. Which, with it, Goodra isn't the strongest special attacker in the game, and after it's been halved due to Draco Meteor, that's probably, like, he was probably looking to get it off the field anyway.
Yeah, so now Till has brought in his Alolan Marowak, and we spoke about how important it is to this matchup. Obviously hits a lot of Szymon's side of the field for massive damage, and you can imagine it's going to want to try and get rid of Araquanid as much as possible here. There's two, because Porygon can launch a Shadow Ball into Raichu and we'll pick up the knockout there. It probably wants to pair down against this Araquanid to knock it out as well, and Szymon looks like he was trying to just leave Porygon 2 alone, and it depends on what Porygon 2 set that Till is running, because we've seen that Porygon 2 obviously can throw out Toxics, it can recover as well, and so Szymon deciding to leave it and go for the partner seems to be a good tactic, especially because it doesn't ruin, but it takes a lot of the potency of his Trick Room turns out from underneath him. And we're going to see the Gastrodon here, so if Szymon wants to use Liquidation, he will not be able to hit the Alolan Marowak.
Yeah, and I'm quite surprised that the Raichu's being as well protected as it is, because we've seen from the previous game the Raichu doesn't actually do a huge amount of damage to anything. But Szymon wanted to preserve his Raichu, but Araquanid healing back a little bit of its HP from Gastrodon. But Marowak not able to get the Shadow Bone through the protect of the Alolan Raichu.
A little bit of poison damage ticking away for Araquanid there as well. And so as we said, like he now has focused down a little bit onto that Porygon slot, and the switch in for Gastrodon here was to cover the Liquidation onto the Alolan Marowak, because Araquanid is so slow, it would be able to pick up hopefully pick up a knockout there. But yeah, Raichu, as we said, hasn't been doing too much, but with the Psychic Terrain boost, it's getting a little bit of damage onto Till's Pokemon each time, and a Psychic into the Marowak slot wouldn't be a bad idea here. Because it does so much damage, you can imagine that Marowak will actually attack into the Raichu slot this turn and take it out. So Araquanid is free to launch a Leech Life if that's the case. We have to see how it works out here. We're actually going to see a switch out instead, though. I
was just thinking most of Raichu's utility, like knowing the rest of the matchup, is probably another Fake Out, which he doesn't want to do with the Psychic Terrain on the field, because obviously you can't use priority moves when there's Psychic Terrain on the field. We see the Stockpile again from Gastrodon, not the Z version this time, and we see Araquanid's Leech Life. They really like fighting that Gastrodon.
It just likes the additional healing, I guess. But we actually do see Celesteela for the first time. And we're going to see the Shadow Bone coming in onto that Celesteela slot. And we're going to see it does a lot of damage there, taking it just under half. Yeah, just under half HP. But the leftovers is going to take it up just over half HP again. So that's a really big amount of damage to be able to deal with such a bulky Pokemon. So he wasn't able to pick up the knockout. But Celesteela isn't really going to be able to do too much to this Marowak. It's got the option to be Flare Blitz now. Araquanid does have to try and threaten this Marowak somehow, but without being able to use Liquidation, Gastrodon is protecting Marowak very, very well.
Yeah, they're pretty good buddies. Araquanid's really limited to just Leech Life at this point, which is a bit of a shame. Celesteela actually going for the Protector, hoping to keep safe from that Marowak if it was targeting into it. Gastrodon using Recover, ensuring that it's going to be around to protect its buddy for a little bit longer. Getting some of that nice green HP back. And we see, once again, Leech Life going into Gastrodon. As we say, these two are ignoring everything else in the field. They're just being battle friends. Yeah,
and we do see the Flare that's coming out into that Celesteela slot. As we said, Celesteela, again, if it does take a 2-hit KO from Shadow Bone, not enjoying this position, but we see the poison coming out from Araquanid, and I believe we only yep, there we go. Twisted Dimensions return to normal, and also Psychic Terrain is no more. So we now have a reverse of order. So once again, Till's slower Pokemon will not be able to move first. Araquanid is the slowest thing on the field, so we can imagine that Gastrodon and Marowak together will be able to clear this. Araquanid then is going to leave the field because it doesn't want to be knocked out straight away, and Tapu Lele is going to come
Coming
back.
straight back in to reset that psychic terrain.
Yeah, are we going to see a Shadow Bone into that slot though? Because that would be a really nice play from Till to be able to get some massive damage here. Substitute from Celesteela is going to come out, so if we see the Flare Blitz, it will only just knock out. Yep, not Flare Blitz onto the Substitute, I assume.
Presumably, yes, yes it is.
So yeah, if we see the Substitute there, Substitute is going to go down. Gastrodon here, it could set up another stockpile to sort out the long game, but it really wants to start putting out some damage across the field because from the next turn, Tapu Lele is going to be a really big deal.
Yeah, we've got the Skull going on to Celesteela then, possibly hoping for the burn, but not getting it. And we see Celesteela is going to be with us for at least another turn. I don't think it has enough HP to substitute again, which is, that's important. So if Marowak is able to get an attack onto Celesteela this turn, that Celesteela is probably going down. Szymon does still have the option. He still has Raichu in the back, but it's no use to him at the moment with the psychic terrain up for fake out purposes.
You can imagine
it would be fast again though.
Yeah, you can imagine that Celesteela is just going to protect here, and we could see a big damage, a big psychic attack coming onto that Marowak slot. So Porygon 2 is going to come here to try and take an attack on that Marowak slot. We're going to see the download is going to be the attack rising, which doesn't matter too much here. Tapu Lele are going to launch a psychic. Is it going to be into? Yep, it's going to be into that Marowak slot. So big damage there onto the Porygon 2. We're going to see the Leech Seed coming out here. So Szymon understanding that Marowak would not want to stay and take a psychic, and so he's free to start trying to set up.
And trying to do a little bit more damage to that Gastrodon. He does not want the Gastrodon to still be on the field. Celesteela not quite going down to that Scald, and Tapu Lele is now locked into Psychic.
That is true. So we have Tapu Lele locked into Psychic. We've got the Leech Seed now set up onto Gastrodon, and Celesteela is kind of starting to do what Celesteela loves to do best. So we could now see a Protect coming out just to get an additional bit of healing back from Gastrodon. If Gastrodon leaves the field, it also loses its stockpile. And so Tapu Lele is throwing out some really high damage attacks here. Psychic there's nothing to joke about. If Marowak switches in, it's going to take a huge amount of damage there. It can 3-hit KO this Porygon. It can probably 2-hit KO this Gastrodon now. So having the option to throw out these big damaging attacks while Celesteela just gets enough HP to be able to get a substitute back up could be the way that Szymon is trying to position himself. Yeah,
and Till on the other hand is probably going to be looking to get that Trick Room back up with Porygon 2 so that he can bring his Marowak back in and start having Marowak shenanigans again. We see the Protect from the Celesteela, as you say, just to get that little bit of extra HP. It would like another substitute, and we see Psychic from Tapu Lele into the Porygon 2 slot. And as we thought, Porygon 2 brings up the Trick Room. Marowak's free to do what Marowak does, and Tapu Lele is now the slowest thing on the field.
Yeah, a little bit of awkward positioning now for Celesteela. Celesteela is slower than Marowak now that Trick Room is back up, and also Tapu Lele as well. So we've seen it Shadow Bone into that slot. We'll be able to pick up the knockout onto Celesteela. He doesn't even need to use Flare Blitz to take the recoil damage here. So it's a big turn for Till to try and figure out who is more important to get rid of. Celesteela has already protected, so that slot is effectively safe to be able to launch a Shadow Bone into. And Tapu Lele, being the slowest thing on the field, will take some additional damage if Porygon 2 decides to attack. But you can imagine he's probably wants to recover here. We're going to see the Shadow Bone going out onto the Tapu Lele. This is going to do massive damage and pick up the knockout.
That's a one-hit KO.
And there's the critical
hit.
So that's a fantastic knockout for Till to take here. We're going to see the Shadow Ball coming out from Porygon as well. This probably won't pick up the knockout at all. So we see, just down to the red. Leech Seed setting up again onto the Marowak. So again, just whittling away at these Pokemon. It will be able to protect next turn, get a little bit of leftovers back, get a little bit of Leech Seed back. But still, having Marowak as the fastest thing on the field is a lot of pressure for Szymon to take.
Yeah, it's always dangerous when the fastest thing on the field is one of the strongest attackers in the game at this point.
Exactly, and he's got a Alolan Raichu in the back and doesn't like facing off against Alolan Marowak under Trick Room, so Szymon has to really think carefully about how he's going to position himself here. But I think Till's enjoying the situation. He's got Shadow Ball, which hits Alolan Raichu super effectively. He's got Shadow Bone on Marowak. He has the option to just bring up his recovery again with Porygon 2. Araquanid, now hitting the field, is poisoned, which has reset because it switched out, but it's on a timer, and so he can use this to he can use this to his advantage, but has to make sure that Szymon knows, has to make sure that Szymon can't get into a position where Celesteela gets fast and sets up a substitute.
Yeah, and I think Araquanid sort of had to be the switch in there because, as we've said, Raichu just wouldn't have been able to do anything at that point. It's a bit of a shame that Araquanid's had to come back into the field so damaged, but we might still get to see it launch a couple more attacks before it goes down. I hope we do.
Yeah,
we've got the, as you said, the Protect from Celesteela. Celesteela is as Celesteela does. It sits there, it protects, it heals a little bit. Araquanid's doing what Araquanid's been doing best in this match, which is firing off powerful leech lives. Another thing I never thought I'd say on stream, and getting back a little bit of health, and Marowak mispredicting the Protect with the Celesteela and not managing to launch off its Shadow Bone.
It would have been a really nice attack to go into that Araquanid slot, but again, that's the threat of having a passive redirection ability. So we've seen it before in lots of other matches that having a Alolan Marowak on your team really means that you can't bring certain Pokemon or you can't use certain attacks every match because if you use an electric type attack, it will just be redirected by Lightning Rod to just switch in. And Araquanid really wants to get a liquidation off against this Marowak, but it just can't. Until he's playing super safe with his Gastrodon and his Marowak here, he's just like, okay, well, if you're going to bring in Araquanid, I have to bring in Gastrodon, and I'm going to make sure that you can't use that super effective attack on me, and Marowak will be around here for a lot longer. And now Celesteela has protected, Flare Blitz will knock it out, Shadow Bone on Araquanid will knock it out, Gastrodon is going to recover up here, so Gastrodon is ready for the long haul, but Marowak has its choice of who to knock out this turn.
And we'll have to see who it goes for. Araquanid is going for Leech Life onto the Marowak slot this time. That's not expected. That's
not a lot of damage either, and minimal recovery, minimal damage there. That's not particularly what Szymon wanted to see. We're going to see a Shadow Bone into the Celesteela here. That is going to pick up the knockout, and Araquanid doesn't have much options here. And with Alolan Raichu in the back, it can get Fake Out, but it can't Fake Out Alolan Marowak, which means it's going to be able to knock out one of these other two Pokemon. And Till is kind of set up here.
Yeah, I think Till's got this now. Marowak selected its target. It chose the Celesteela, which is definitely the sensible option to have gone for there. And now at this point, it's just Till making sure that he cleans this up, I think.
Yeah, so Gastrodon has been a really strong pick for Till here. Obviously, with Tapu Bulu running around so much, you'd imagine that the usage of Gastrodon hasn't been that high, but with the prevalence of Tapu Koko and the redirection ability of Storm Drain, people have decided to risk it anyway, and it's really paid dividends for Till. So again, we won't see a Fake Out coming out from Raichu onto the Marowak slot. Araquanid might just have to protect itself here, but then it gets a little bit less damage from the poison. We see the Raichu protecting here.
Gastrodon going for another stockpile. Gastrodon is determined that it's here to stay. It's already very difficult to get rid of, but it's just ensuring that it's going to be an extra problem for Szymon. Araquanid now doing even less damage with Leech Life, getting back less of that recovery. And who is Marowak going to target down? It is targeting down the Araquanid. Didn't fall for the Raichu's Protect, and the Araquanid goes down.
So Araquanid is leaving the field. We were really excited to see Araquanid on stream, but wasn't able to do anything just because of that Gastrodon. Gastrodon really putting a lot of pressure onto Szymon's side of the field. And the Trick Room is over now, so Raichu is in a position where it can launch a powerful Psychic attack onto the Marowak slot. But all Till has to do is switch out his Marowak to take that attack. Gastrodon can either Toxic if it has it, or just start whittling away at this Raichu here. So we're going to see the Psychic coming out onto the Marowak. It's going to take the attack. It takes the attack with 15 HP. So we're going to see the Handshake here and the Shadow Bone going out onto the Raichu, and that is game.
That is game, and Till is through to day 2.
Till is through to day 2. A really well played game by Till. Again, Trick Room, hard Trick Room was really difficult for Szymon's team to handle. Just lots and lots of pressure every single turn. We saw a lot of passive abilities being used by Till's side of the field. With the Lightning Rod redirection, with the Storm Drain redirection, Araquanid was completely locked out, but it was, again, Araquanid was a strong pick because he needed to be able to deal with those fire types.